for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there's regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
On Plus TV News Now. Bola Tinubu informs Buhari Osibajo of 2023 presidential ambition.
I've informed the president of my intention.
Ugandan schools reopen after nearly 2 years, ending world's longest COVID closure. Russia says no progress with U.S. undesired Ukraine NATO membership ban. Many thanks for joining us on Plus News Now. I am Mary Anna Cohn. Now the news in detail. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has confirmed his intention to contest the office of the president in 2023. Tinubu has also disclosed that he has informed President Muhammadu Buhari about his presidential ambition. He disclosed this to State House correspondents on Monday after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa in Abuja. According to him, contesting the presidency is his lifelong ambition.
I can answer that with categorical yes. I've informed the president of my intention, but I've not informed the Nigerians yet. I'm still consulting. And I have no problem consulting, and I've not set a parameter of limitation to the extent of how many people will I consult. You will soon hear, all you want to hear is a categorical declaration. You've gotten that truth from me that I've informed the Mr. President of my ambition. And you don't expect more answers than that. First of all, the National Assembly and the President must be encouraged to review, and they review again. Whatever they come up with electoral amendment is what we must comply with. There's no unlimited elasticity in what we face, because we have to plan and plan well and be able to manage the time effectively. The great roadmap to success is ability of a leader to do what he must do at the right time that it should be done. So that, to me, the electoral amendment point, we will still look at that collectively, and it is our country, it's our democracy. We adopted it, and we will pursue it rigorously. About the cap of kingmaker, I've never seen the cap of a kingmaker before. Oh, no, that is the truth. And I've never seen where it is written in the rule book anywhere in any country that a kingmaker cannot be a king unless you commit murder. So, whatever is your attribute, is your own opinion. Me, I want to pursue my ambition without the title of a kingmaker. You can write your literature and your story based upon your own perception.
Well, joining us live is political analyst Biodun Showomi as we break down this particular story. Thank you very much, Mr. Showomi, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Well, this doesn't necessarily come as a surprise to many, as speculations have been rife on his ambition to run for the presidency ticket on the platform of the All Progressive Congress. But what are your thoughts?
Well, we still don't have a categorical declaration from Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has only let us into his thinking that he's busy consulting within the context of the law. And what is he actually referring to? My view is that, one, we have an electoral act which has its own restrictions on when you can declare that you are a candidate or not. He hinted at that by saying that within the limitations of the law, which is the current electoral act, and made the reference to the amendment when passed, then that could be examined to see whether those limitations are new or they're there, or what are the new conditionalities in the electoral. So that is on one point why it's limited to declare his candidacy. he could only go to the point or to the extent of saying, look, I am consulting, I've informed Mr. President of my opinion. That is not a violation of the Electoral Act as it stands currently. Then he further went ahead to try and explain his own perception of the issue of kingmakers. Quite a lot of political pundits actually pitched their threats that Tinubu will end up becoming another kingmaker this time around, rather than bidding for the crown himself. There are so many speculations about who he will endorse or not endorse. But now we know that he's not thinking of being a kingmaker any longer. And he explained the fact that there is no constitutional inhibition from a kingmaker or no kingmaker from bidding for the throne, to be crowned. So basically, what he's saying is that irrespective of the role he has played in the past, there is no inhibition, legally wise, to his future aspiration, which is to be a candidate in the next election for the presidency. So I think it's been very, very clear enough. People already know his mind. We can understand his psychological construct, his personal construct, his makeup, and where it's going, his direction. He's let us into that thinking without violating the Electoral Act as it stands today, when INEC upload the issue. So that's so far what I think he has done.
Let's go on to the support that he might be receiving now that he has somewhat hinted that he might be interested in the revered seat of the president. We also know that we had seen billboards surface in the FCT of the vice president, also seemingly looking like he's also throwing his hat into the ring here. Do you see a split in supports within the party and, of course, in the Southwest, being that these two come from the same extraction?
Yeah, well, I think Tinubu's announcement, or is letting us into his thinking currently, is with a bid to put a stop to some of the debt moves being made by supporters or, how would I call it, enablers of different, one or two different candidates in the Southwest who have pinned their hope on the fact that maybe Tinubu will resign to be a kingmaker and therefore open the way for them. And their supporters have been busy campaigning, creating billboards and all that everywhere, both on social media, physically, in the state capital, Abuja. Now, what he has done with that announcement is he's going to have to call for retrospection. At least one or two of those top leading candidates will have to rethink whether they can afford to take on Tinubu in the Southwest for the popular votes, one. And two, whether they can afford to take on Tinubu within the political party, APC itself, knowing that he will enjoy the support of many of the ACN faction that came into APC, and possibly he has considerable measure of support also in the north, which within the Northern APC caucus, yes, which could go in his favor. That notwithstanding, it does not mean that it doesn't have people who are averse to his candidacy. Yes, they have within the party. Yes, they have within the country. But he's determined to contest. He's been encouraged by the level of support he's getting from the consultation.
Interesting. You answered almost everything in my next question, because I was going to ask how formidable a candidate he would be, not just because, in the Southwest, he seems to be not just a kingmaker, he seems to be the leader of the party, but one would wonder how well he will fare in the South and the Southeast and, of course, the North. You have said he might have some fraction of support in the North, but can that be said of him in the Southwest, in the South and the Southeast, knowing that there's an agitation of sorts coming from not just the Southeast, but even the South?
Yeah, prior to 2 years ago, I would have been one of those who will say that there'll be a measure, considerable measure of rejection or opposition to Tinubu's candidacy in the South-South and the South-East. What we have seen so far is that, given the political realities currently, the division in the country, even amongst the governors, along the South and North fault lines, we are in a situation where the South is probably going to look at who is best placed, to win the election, who is a certain candidate, and who is not best placed. From all those indicating their interest so far, there is no doubt in my mind that Tinubu has the farthest reach when you talk within the South in terms of crossing the North, barrier. Yes, he might not enjoy popular support in the Southeast, South-South, but he enjoys some support in the Southeast, South-South, because you still have the APC as a political party in those states. The fact of the matter is the South has resolved that a candidate from the South should be the next president. So if Tinubu wins the APC ticket, it is possible another Southern candidate will win the PDP ticket. It is possible, not impossible. So should that happen, then you are likely going to have a Southwest candidate against maybe Southeast, South candidate through the PDP. If that happens, the North, and Middle Belt will determine what happens in that election. But in the unlikely event that PDP, offers the ticket to a Northern, which I will understand why if they choose to do that, because it's with a view to create a sharp contradiction and see whether they can get majority of the votes from the North to back their own candidate, hoping to slice into Southeast and South-South. In the event of that happening, then it will be a straightforward battle between an APC, if Tinubu eventually declares and gets the ticket, between Tinubu and whoever is the Northern candidate of PDP. So that'll be a very interesting development. I think it promises a lot, in terms of campaigning, in terms of the issues of the national question, in terms of how they will handle security. So it will be very interesting to listen to them. At least we'll have a proper debate, this time around, and people will understand what the issues are and their policies and the positions of whoever they are elected.
Well, Biodun Shomi is a political analyst. We thank you so much for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
And moving on, the National Reconciliation Committee of the All Progressive Congress has appealed to members of the party in the state to put the interests of the party first in all their actions. Chairman of the committee, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, stated this during a meeting with the stakeholders of the party in Osogbo, the state capital. Senator Abdullahi Adamu said the presence at the government house in Osogbo, the state capital, was part of efforts to ensure fair hearing. It's also to ensure equity and justice, as it would serve as a forum for the party leadership to respond to and defend some of the allegations raised and petitions filed before it. He promised to report and present the findings before the national headquarters of the party in Abuja.
When he was contesting here, we have the Oromia group, which he used as his campaign team. The moment you finish an election, whichever group you use goes under the party structure. When our governor wanted to contest, yes, we have the Lili Lua, but since he became governor on the 27th of November 2018, it is the party that is taking decisions here, not any group.
Of the committee, having heard all the submissions in response to the allegations made against the party functionaries, one level or the other, either as individual or collective, corporate type of complaint we have had. We are not the final authority. We will report our findings to the party that appointed us.
When you went to meet them, did you find Bisa Kande there? You won't find me there, you won't find all these places there. And you see National Assembly member here, you see the whole state executive of our party here, the former minister is here, former deputy governors are here. where's again do we want? I don't say if you can talk to them, we are open. Let them come.
You've spoken very well, and I want to say that the people who consider themselves as top, they have every right to come back to the party. We're not saying no to them coming back. All we're saying is please show sincerity of purpose. We should work together in the interest of our party, in the interest of our government, and the interest of the state. But anybody that wants to play any spoiler game will not have his way here, because
Former Ogun State Governor Tumba Gbenga Daniel and other political stakeholders have been speaking about 2023. They're also asking leaders and top monarchs in Southwest to consider, consult and streamline the number of politicians vying for the presidential seat from the region ahead of the 2023 general elections, as they opined about how that can be best achieved across the party divides towards the emergence of a Southerner to take over from President Muhammadu Buhari.
The way it goes, power belongs to God, but it's also not served a la carte. It is for people who aspire to get it. And there's nothing wrong in people aspiring, but there is everything wrong in everybody now struggling in such a way that at the end of the day, nothing is achieved. There are so many of our people who are qualified, who are strong, who are willing, who are able. But if we really want to retain that opportunity, it's incumbent on all our elders and leaders to come together and streamline.
And now that they have served their own 8 years, I think it is fair to assume and also to make a case for presidency to come to the Southwest.
For the development of the country, it's also good that, we rotate between the North and the South. And the North having been there for 8 years, I think it is only right for it to come to the South. Oh, and of course, when it gets to the South, every part of the South, the three, sections of the South are entitled.
In administration, in fixing government, Yoruba are super. I know we have security challenge, but I'm persuaded that if you fix this economic challenge, the security challenge will automatically fix itself. People are hungry, people are dying on the roads. If they are busy, you will not find them.
Deputy Minority Leader at the House of Representatives, Honorable Segun Adekoya, argues that the Southwest has capable hands to solve the current socio-economic challenges of the country. As the 2023 general elections gathers momentum, a fresh crisis has erupted within the PDP fold in Ondo State. The brouhaha is over who will lead the party in the state. The situation within the party worsened after the immediate past governor of the state, Olusegun Mimiko, was dragged to court over his status as leader of the party. A chieftain of the party, Mr. Bode Obanla, who is also the coordinator of the People's Democratic Party support group, filed a suit at the State High Court barring the former governor from assuming the leadership of the party. According to Obanla, Mimiko dumped the party when the party members needed him the most to lead the party in the state.
Says whoever is returning to the party will lose the status he was before. That's number one. The second one is that Dr. Mimiko was never produced by a party in the first place. He was in Labour Party. He considered that Labour Party in the 2 elections. As a result, he cannot be a member of NEC. As a result, he can never lead the party again. He cannot lead the party. You come. He will add value by coming to the party. As former governor, he will add value. But what we are saying is that the party, I know, respects law, and the law must be respected.
Nigerians are expecting a change in the villa in 2023, and members of the People's Democratic Party at all levels have a role to play to actualize this dream. These were the words of the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Ezebunwa Wike as he visited Governor Duodiri at the Government House in Yenagoa. Our Bayelsa State House correspondent Jesse Ese has details.
Governor Nyesom Wike's visit was informed by his desire to ensure that there is unity in the PDP before the presidential primaries ahead of the 2023 general elections. He stressed the need for synergy and peaceful coexistence among the people of Rivers, Bayelsa and neighboring states, advising the citizens to desist from instigating crisis among governors. Wike also praised Governor Doyediri for his contribution to the success of the last PDP convention, saying that same is needed to silence the opposition.
The way he participated in the conduct of the National Convention, just last concluded National Convention, my brothers and my sisters, it is not, is 3 new governors, 3, himself, Oyo and Adamawa. We didn't give them that chance. We thought that they are new people. Why do you allow new people to go? But they have embarrassed us by conducting the best ever convention.
Responding, Governor Diri thanked Wike for the visit, which he said was apt. He maintained that despite litigation over the Soku oil field, there is need for the 2 states to unite while advancing their cause in the political space.
We can do all of that. For instance, we are in court over Soku, and all the brotherliness you have extended to me, that one, both of us have disagreed. And you two, you are holding very strong. I'm also holding very strong. But I hope that God will grant us the grace to also overcome that before you leave office.
With the presidential election still ahead, these two believe the PDP stands better chances of winning. Jesse AC for PlusTvAfrica.
Zoning might be a way to solve the challenges the country is currently battling with. This was said by Maurice Banire, a senior advocate of Nigeria, earlier tonight on Plus Politics. He suggested that a reason for the crisis the All Progressive Congress faces now could be the surrendering of the party's authority to the president, Muhammadu Buhari.
I must tell you that originally and for some time I've always believed in competency as opposed to zoning. In other words, let's look for somebody who is able to deliver the goods. But in recent times, as a result of so many acts of injustice in the land and a lot of agitation in the land, I'm beginning to think, seriously speaking, that might appear to be one of the ways to address the tension in the country presently. Let me confess to you that while I was the National Legal Advisor of the party and a member of the National Working Committee and the Executive Council of that party, the president had always resisted invitation to be domineering in terms of party affairs as much as possible. But as things progresses, you discover that gradually people, in my view, are gradually bringing all pressure on him to take charge of the party. In other words, submitting the entire party to the president. And I think that led to what happened eventually in dismantling the earlier structure of the party. If you recall that the meeting that led to the dissolution of the then National Working Committee was presided over by the president. Again, that certainly also was an irregular act within the party constitution. But that had taken place. But the truth of the matter is that up to now, practically all the major stakeholders in APC look up to the president for direction on all affairs, in all affairs of the party. So to that extent, I believe that they have on their own voluntarily submitted the authority of the party to the president.
Workers under the auspices of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria on Monday picketed the National Assembly complex for 2 hours. The picketing followed the failure of the management to persuade the workers to suspend the action. The workers had notified management of the picketing and their resolve to embark on a strike if their demands were not met. Led by their chairman, Comrade Sabihi Sunday, the protesting workers marched several times around the foyer of the National Assembly singing solidarity songs and waving banners and placards.
National Assembly Service Commission is our regulators. They employ us. So we will picket them too. We will picket them too. If we're picketing National Assembly, we will picket the Commission. Because the whole us an explanation. So my fellow comrades, we are always saying that we work in the parliament and we are people with knowledge, and we are not street boys, we are not motor park unions, we work diligently. We are civilized, we don't break our homes, we don't throw stones, we don't insult people, we don't call names. We only ask for what is rightfully ours.
Since 2019, we've been denied till this year our arrears of 24 months. We know an act perceive all other records or circulars. The acts of the president have said they should implement since 2019 April. 2019 April. But National Assembly, where the laws, where the acts being passed, they have been denied us. We are not fighting with the CNA. We are not fighting with the Commission. We are not fighting with the leadership of National Assembly, but we are fighting for our rights.
Still ahead, United Nations aid group halts work in northwest Tigray after deadly airstrike. We'll bring you details when we return.
If it's all been trending in the entertainment industry, then we'll definitely be talking about it.
We bring you the funny, controversial, and hottest topics making waves in the entertainment scene worldwide.
We also interview all your favorite celebrities and keep you locked down with fun segments and live performances. Tea Time, showing every weekday at 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and of course the repeat at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m.
And bringing you stories from other parts of Africa, children in Uganda have expressed their joy at finally returning to school nearly after 2 years after the schools were closed because of COVID. After one of the world's longest school closures, authorities warned that at least 30% of students may never return. Some have started work while others have become pregnant or married early. The country's National Planning Authority said about 15 million students have been affected by the closure, the government also said. Some classes reopened in October 2020 temporarily, but closed again in May and June of the following year.
UNICEF would not have advised for this kind of measure. We believe that, there is always a risk for having schools open because you have 50 million learners in Uganda. But as I said, there are different measures to prevent the spread of infection through the education system.
Mali's ruling junta said it strongly condemned illegal sanctions imposed on the country by the ECOWAS. The military's regime spokesperson, Colonel Abdoulaye Mayiga, announced the recall of Bamako's ambassadors to the West African nations involved in the closure of air-land borders with them. ECOWAS and the West African Economic and Monetary Union on Sunday imposed a range of economic and diplomatic measures against Mali. These include border closures and a trade embargo. And to other matters, residents in Bamako on Monday shrugged off sanctions imposed on the country. It was imposed by the ECOWAS, saying they supported the government's strategy. ECOWAS on Sunday agreed a raft of restrictions against Mali, including the suspension of financial transactions over the interim authorities' failure to hold democratic elections next month, as agreed after a 2020 military coup. And in Libya, security forces have violently broken up a sit-in by migrants protesting outside a former United Nations community centre in Tripoli. More than 600 people were arrested in the raid early this morning. They've been sent to a nearby detention centre. Many of the protesters, some of them women and children, have been camped outside the building since October following a big clampdown on migrants. An aid group, the Norwegian Refugee Council, says some of those arrested were injured, with one suffering from a gunshot wound. It demanded that the migrants be released. Humanitarian organizations have suspended their activities in Ethiopia's stricken Tigray region which was hit by a deadly airstrike on a camp outside for displaced people. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs revealed this on Sunday. The Tigrayan rebels accused the government on Saturday of carrying out a drone attack, claiming 56 people were killed. However, an official of the region's main hospital said 55 people were killed, with 126 sustaining injuries. And from Ethiopia, we move to the Democratic Republic of Congo as the planning minister confirmed the general census of the population is going ahead. The last time the country organized one was in 1984. The exercise will also serve to identify the population and enroll voters. Preparatory works will be taking place from February, and field operations are scheduled to start in July. Costs are estimated at about $600 million. The government has allocated at least $250 million in the budget for 2022. And from outside Africa, on a tennis court, Novak Djokovic's timing is perfect. But when he arrived in Australia to play the first Grand Slam for the year, holding documents allowed him to enter the country without COVID-19 vaccine. His timing hardly could have been worse. When Djokovic landed in Melbourne on Wednesday, he found himself in a city beset by surging virus cases. Border officials rejected Djokovic's documentation, cancelled his visa, and ordered him out of the country in a move that many Australians cheered. The tennis star's outspoken opposition to the COVID-19 vaccine struck a wrong note in the city where 92% of the eligible population is fully vaccinated. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison quickly embraced the decision to deny him entry. This is raising questions about whether the world's top male tennis player and the reigning Australian Open champion was being made a scapegoat. Well, joining us live to discuss this issue is Biola Soles-Chukwu. She's a tennis reporter and correspondent. Thank you very much for joining us, Biola.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So the question everybody's asking is, what exactly did Djokovic do wrong? Because many are saying, why was he even allowed entry into the country in the first instance?
I think there's a whole lot of drama going on here. First off, Novak Djokovic is one of the very few unvaccinated players in the world at the moment. And it was required that players be vaccinated to participate at the Australian Open, except they are given medical exemption. And those medical exemptions come on the basis of having serious medical issue or being after contracting COVID in the last 6 months. It is known rather that Novak Djokovic is unvaccinated and does not accept vaccines, and no one knew for certain if he had COVID in the last 6 months. So I think Novak Djokovic himself, Tennis Australia as well, could have been a little more transparent as to why he got medical exemption. And then Australians were naturally offended because they have faced a whole lot of restrictions since COVID came, and even spectators for the tournaments are not allowed into the courts if they aren't vaccinated. So I think the uproar was a little understandable, and he did not particularly need his scapegoat. But at the moment, a lot of people think he has won because his visa, he has been told to stay for now. But tomorrow, the Australian government are saying they can still deport him. So the drama is far from over at the moment, and he might still not play the Australian.
Well, many have said that the Djokovic issue has become some sort of political hot potato, and this has made a lot of countries, somewhat get involved in this. One of the biggest people who has been in the forefront of Brexit, Nigel Farage, is actually behind Djokovic. And this is a person from a country where they are also trying as much as possible to make sure that all their people are truly vaccinated. So are people caught between the love for the tennis game in itself and, of course, the love of their lives, because the love for staying healthy and alive? Could that be the situation of things now? Because, of course, politics has gotten involved.
Yes, that's definitely the situation of things, because the Australian government, I don't think really expected the citizens of Australia to be that offended. And they recently had elections and all, and of course, the government is trying to look good in their eyes. And, We have also seen some Novak Djokovic supporters in Australia take to the streets to show their support for him in front of the hotel that he was detained in as well. So yes, it's definitely a political issue. The reason why the Australian government say they might still deport him tomorrow is also a political issue. A lot of their politicians really came up to speak just after he was detained at the airport he got into Australia. So it's more than just a tennis thing now, it's also political, definitely. And not just in Australia, all around the world.
And finally, I don't know how much of basketball you're into, but we saw a basketballer also, an American, I think he plays for the Nets, if I'm not mistaken, that also had the same issue. He's like an anti-vaxxer, and he was made to step aside and not play for a while until, you know, something broke within the teams and he was called back. What can other athletes, whether it be tennis, football, learn from this, especially for the anti-vaxxers who are openly saying they do not want to be vaccinated, yet they want to play the game?
Yes, I think at this point they really need to understand the rules. Rules are rules. For Novak Djokovic, for instance, I mean, almost every tournament now will require vaccination. So how long do you want to continue this drama? Or how many tournaments are you going to pull out of? And it applies to every sportsman, every sportswoman at this time. Vaccinations are required to play almost every sport in almost every country at this point. So if we go this route in every tournament, then we'll keep having this kind of issue. So I think everyone, spectators, sportsmen and women, officials need to understand that rules are rules at this time. And COVID is taking over, and we somehow need to curb it. And this is one of the ways to do so. So rules are rules, and they need to stick by that, really. I think that's what everyone is doing.
Well, Biola Solis-Chukwu is a tennis correspondent, and she's, of course, a sports analyst. Thank you so much for speaking with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Marianne.
All right, great. Moving to other stories, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said on Monday that there have been no progress at security talks between Moscow and Washington. This is on the question of ruling out the future Ukrainian membership of NATO. Russia says it wants a cast iron guarantee that Ukraine will never be allowed to join the Western military alliance. This is because such a move would pose a serious threat to Russian national security. Speaking at a news conference after the talks in Geneva, Ryabkov said the fate of future talks would depend on progress on the issue. Still staying in Ukraine, the SBU Security Service said on Monday it had detained a Russian military intelligence agent. He was planning attacks on the country's largest Black Sea port of Odessa. The agent was detained while trying to recruit someone to carry out attacks, it added. Officials at Russia's foreign and defense ministries did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the Ukrainian statements, which did not go into details. Two former Israeli prime ministers have faced off in court in Tel Aviv. Benjamin Netanyahu and his family began a defamation suit against Ehud Olmert. Mr. Netanyahu, his wife Sarah, and their eldest son Yair are suing Mr. Olmert for $269 billion, I beg your pardon, in damages for saying that they were mentally ill. Mr. Olmert made the claim in two Israeli TV interviews last April. He's arguing that it was not libelous because it was true, and also he was clearly expressing an opinion. Well, up next, CBN says capital importation falls by 1.68 trillion naira. All that's in business news to this break.
Glenfiddich means Valley of the Deer. And just as a stag loses its antlers each year, we believe in letting down our guard and seeking out uncertainty to embrace the unknown. It's how we go forward, how we grow stronger, and how we make our whiskey. Glenfiddich, where next?
You're welcome to the business news. My name is Adibanke Udunu. Thank you for joining us. Foreign investors appear to have boycotted the Nigerian market. Capital importation has dropped by $4.08 billion in 1 year, latest statistics have shown. Between January and September 2020, total capital importation amounted to $8.55 billion, data from the National Bureau of Statistics revealed. The federal government has promised to use the 0.25% levy on profit before tax (PBT) to fund the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure (LASENI). The funding, which the government said would be for research and development, technology and innovation, will transform the national economy. LASENI Executive Vice Chairman Professor Mohammed Haruna said the new Nigeria financial law would affirm 0.25% levy on commercial companies to fund LASENI's R&D. Emerging economies should gear up for possible rough times as the U.S. Federal Reserve prepares to raise interest rates. World economic growth may slow because of the Omicron variant of COVID-19, the International Monetary Fund warned on Monday. The IMF is scheduled to release updated economic forecasts on January 25th. It said that for now, global economic recovery from the ravages of the pandemic should continue this year and the next. And that's all on the business news. My name is Adibanke Udunui. Thank you for joining us.
And in sports, the Senegalese team is without 11 players on its 28-man roster for its Africa Cup of Nations opener against Zimbabwe after testing positive for COVID-19. The team will play its third goalkeeper, Bofosam, on Monday. Sene Deng of Queen's Park Rangers and the third goalkeeper will take his place in the cage to compensate for the absence of Edouard Mendy, but also his first substitute, Alfred Gomis-René, who is not on the game sheet. The Chelsea goalkeeper tested positive for COVID, as did defender Kalidou Koulibaly and striker Famara Diédhiou. On Sunday, Senegal had mentioned these three possible withdrawals. It seems the list has grown since then. Well, joining us live is PlusTvAfrica's sports editor, Wale Scott. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Scott.
I like the idea you actually stumbled on Koulibaly.
Well, we're all not used to these names, but before we go into the case of, the COVID-19 situation in the camp, I'd like for you to quickly just run us through what, the AFCON has been since yesterday. We saw a very colorful event as an opener, and of course a very interesting opening statement there from the Cameroon government. But what is the situation of things now that we're seeing a lot of men fall ill?
I think the AFCON has always been terrible, really, because most times African countries don't take care of their players just in case they get injured in the course of the competition. Now, they put in their best for their club. But most times when they come back to Africa for the competition, they don't put in their best for me. I was joking with you a few minutes ago before the show started, and I said, they look very obese to me, really. Your jogging is better than their sprint these days, really. And it's terrible. However, so far, so good. It's been good. Cameroon got 2 penalties in their match against Burkina Faso. Okay, fair enough. It's all good. Ethiopia got a win against Cape Verde. Things are only getting better at the competition. Yes, it has gotten better. The standard has gotten better, yes. But I think the best match of the tournament that everybody is waiting for, the whole world is waiting for, is Nigeria against the Pharaohs of Egypt, which takes place tomorrow at 4 p.m. Yeah. And Mo Salah is not one player, it's 3 players in one, really.
Oh, well, I saw a lot of people go at it tough on social media. People were saying that Ndidi was going to be, bringing the neck breaker for Mo Salah and he needs to watch his back. But what's that thing that's going on between Nigeria and Egypt?
No, it's always been a major competition. Egypt have a better structure. Now, consistency is key at this point. The Egyptian team have 7 players who play in one team in their country. That's Al Ali. Now, they only have 3 or 4 very few players who actually come from abroad. And one of them is Mo Salah, who is undoubtedly one of the best players in the world as we speak. Now, but he says we have fantastic Nigerian players, and we're not scared of Mo Salah because we've got Kelechi, who plays in England, Wilfred Indidi, who plays in England, Ola, he plays in England, Truth Ekong, he plays in England. So they play week in, week out. We're not scared of Mo Salah. And on my show this morning on Plus Sport, we spoke to the media spokesperson of the Super Eagles, Femi Raji, who said, listen, we're not playing against Mo Salah. We're playing against the pharaohs of Egypt. So it's going to be a good game. They should bring it on.
Okay.
I'm very optimistic we can win this game.
Finally, I've also seen people make bold statements like Nigeria will win the AFCON. But for the sports pundits and those who are real critics of the Super Eagles, they say that this team is good, but might not be as good enough to lift that cup. Where do you stand on this?
This team is fantastic. Really, it's very fantastic. They've got individual players: Joe Aribo, Chukwueze, Ola, Kelechi Iheanacho. The only person that's not there is Victor Osimhen. I think they're a fantastic team. And like Femi Raji told us this morning on Plus Sport, he says, let's take one game at a time. I think we can make it happen. I think we can.
Okay, and aside from the Pharaohs of Egypt, what other teams do you think will be making great debuts, or rather, changing the tide for their country or the status when it comes to AFCON?
Except for COVID-19, Senegal will be a team to beat. Saudi, they've got Khalid Koulibaly, they've got Edouard Mendy in goal. That will be massive. Senegal. And then Ghana will be a team to beat. Well, like Femi Raji said this morning, let's take it one game at a time. Nigeria could just win this one.
One game at a time. Well, Wale Scott is our sports editor here in Plus TV Africa. Thank you very much, Wale, for speaking with us.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Good to be on the show.
All right. Well, back to the main news again. Senator Bola Tinubu has informed President Buhari and Professor Oshibajo of his 2023 presidential ambition.
I've informed the president of my intention.
Ugandan schools reopen after nearly 2 years, ending the world's longest COVID closure. And Russia says no progress with US on desired Ukraine NATO membership ban. And that's all we have for you on our news package. For more stories, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook and on Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I'm Mary Anacon, thanking you for watching. Do have a pleasant night rest.